We've all noticed how some epic fantasy shows these days often have a grim outlook. Game of Thrones is an example due to its amazing illustration of the grimdark tendency. But now, The Rings of Power, which we know as the forthcoming Lord of the Rings prequel series, has its own trailblazer effect. So in this video, we're going to talk about how the executive producer of the series makes sure that the cast and crew follows this one rule. First off, we have the show's producer revealing their #1 priority while filming. Keeping in mind all the themes of J.R.R. Tolkien's original literature, the one rule that the writing team had when they first sat down to start on the prequel series was to stay true to them all. With The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power about to premiere on Prime Video in less than a month, J.R.R. Tolkien's renowned works of fiction will get a major expansion. The series will take place tens of thousands of years before The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings events, covering ground that's only occasionally mentioned in the books. As a result, we're intrigued to see how the series end result will blow our minds. In a recent interview, the executive producer of The Rings of Power, J.A. Bayona, stated that bringing Tolkien's optimism and love to life was their main goal. The producer said that she expects the upcoming series to capture the same essence as the movies and books. She instructed the cast and crew members to be mindful of this, since they wouldn't want to stray far from the main idea that the author focused on. She added that later on, one could even tell how much Tolkien respected beauty by the way he portrayed the characters and events in the books, and that this is what she expected the upcoming series to portray as well. Next up, we have Tolkien's previous tales of optimism. The main part that Bayona mentioned during the interview was that they wanted the series to reflect the optimistic and upbeat mentality of Tolkien, who survived the First World War and wrote a narrative about it. According to her, Tolkien was naturally positive, affectionate, and emotional. What's interesting is that Tolkien, the man behind all this, had experienced some of the most horrific things in human history. But despite all of that, he didn't write a depressing, horrible account afterward, and instead showed us that there's always a glimpse of light, even on the darkest of roads. Tolkien rejects categorizing the world into the good and the evil poles. He shows us that we can always change our situation and act in both positive and harmful ways. The story on human nature demonstrates people's inner fortitude and capacity to get past their flaws and work toward a better life. So if a person chooses to live a good life, even the weakest and most vicious of us can improve. His main message was that there's something good to make out of every situation. He ended up writing a novel about hope and the triumph of a small character. Even during the most painful and scariest scenes, there had to be genuine optimism and love. As we can see, even the author kept this as his first rule. And now, to talk a little about the upcoming series. All of us who love historical dramas are in for a treat, since the history of Middle-earth is explored in the 5-season awesome fantasy series. The second age of Middle-earth is when The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power takes place, hundreds of centuries before The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings. After Morgoth, Sauron's master, was vanquished, there was a period of calm before the storm. The show follows the lives and exploits of its diverse cast, and promises to take us to places like the Misty Mountains, Lindon, the home of the forest elves, and the coast of the island nation of Numenor. The show's showrunner, Patrick McKay, announced at San Diego Comic-Con that the plot would demonstrate how the shadow rises anew after a defeat. The series will finally make its Amazon Prime Video debut on September 2nd, after spending 5 years in development. It'll cost a record-breaking $1 billion, making it the most costly show ever produced. No other television series in history has been this expensive, cinematic, or this massive while being under such demand and secrecy. But is Amazon making the right choice? They're surely taking a risk with a billion-dollar IP by creating a big traditional show that wears its heart on its sleeve and entrusting an unknown screenwriting duo to run it, especially considering that we live in a time where hyperactive fictional universes which outbid sentimental pieces with humor have become the entertainment industry's most profitable bet. But are Tolkien's works vaguely connected to The Rings of Power? The showrunners of The Rings of Power were extra careful to avoid repeating previous J.R.R. Tolkien adaptations, despite the numerous similarities to the already existing and adored Jackson trilogy. The showrunner, Patrick McKay, decided to give us his opinions after a journalist recently stated that The Rings of Power only felt vaguely tied to Tolkien's work. Much like we expected, McKay disagreed and mentioned a few points that the cast and crew took care of while filming the show. He told The Hollywood Reporter that they feel as if the novels and Tolkien have deep roots in this show, and that if this wasn't the case, they wouldn't want to sit up here at all. They went on to add that he and his team strongly believed that this isn't their story and that they're just responsible for an idea that existed before them. This tale was patiently waiting in those volumes to be told. Near the end, McKay made it clear that they didn't experience a vague connection between the two, but they're definitely striving daily to get even more closer to the characters because they felt very emotionally attached to them. There was still emphasis on the fact that the aesthetics outlined in J.R.R. Tolkien's original works would be maintained in the television adaptations. And now for some other related news. First off, Jungle might be Prime Video's upcoming box office hit. According to what we've seen in the first trailer for Jungle on Prime Video, Amazon Studios' next unexpected blockbuster show could be this one. The producers wanted to develop a skewed, timeless vision of today's world and bring a fascinating and complicated complicated tale to life. The series will tell its story through a special combination of music and conversation, working hand in hand with creatively ambitious cinematography and design. The series will use engaging graphics to depict London, while also describing the numerous detours and double crosses involved in day-to-day life there. This will all lead to a larger message about the true worth of life. Amazon Studios has disclosed the premiere date for the remarkably avant-garde music TV series in a press statement, but the debut of the Lord of the Rings prequel series, another potentially huge Prime Video masterpiece, is much closer to its release date. If the two TV shows are as successful as Amazon hopes they will be, September and October might be highly fruitful months for the company's streamer, and of course, it'll be very enjoyable for us. Next up, we have Tatiana Maslany discussing She-Hulk Attorney at Law. Jen Walters, played by Tatiana Maslany, struggles to accept her Hulk-like superpowers and prefers to carry on with her life as a successful lawyer. Maslany, though, hopes that when it premieres on Walt Disney, we won't refer to it as the female superhero program. In various scenes from the show, She-Hulk is criticized for her very presence by male online trolls or members of the media. Maslany's character receives Hulk abilities from her cousin Bruce Banner, who also serves as her superhero instructor. She's also given control over the superpowers part of her legal company, which enables the program to include numerous Marvel Universe cameos. And finally, the Wednesday showrunners claim that the series isn't an Addams Family reboot. The live-action Addams Family series, which is directed by Tim Burton, is its own thing, according to Wednesday showrunners Miles Miller and Alfred Goff. They also made it clear that it should be watched more like a lengthy film from the renowned director's back catalog. In an interview, Miller and Goff talked about how Burton joined the team as both director and executive producer, and how the show fits within the Addams Family universe. When asked about the plot, Miller claimed that their goal was to create an 8-hour Tim Burton film, and that it was crucial that the program didn't feel like a remake or a reboot. They wanted to create something that had its own story and background. We're excited to see what they come up with. That's a wrap for this video. How do you feel about finding out that the Rings of Power will have the same optimistic theme as the Lord of the Rings? Do you think it was a good call made by the executive producer? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.